So I am so happy to be interviewing Viviana Guzman for episode 7 of the Flutist Pioneers Series, which is all about creative flutists who put their own spin on things. And I actually can think of no one that embodies creativity as a flutist more than Viviana. Viviana, welcome, and I can't wait to talk to you about so many things that I know are going to inspire anyone who watches. My first question to you is, what was your life like right before COVID hit? And then will you tell us about some of the challenges that you had to rise up and meet with creativity to the extreme? Tell us all about it.
Well, right before COVID hit, I had just gotten off my Silk Road tour, as I like to call it. I was playing as a soloist with the orchestra in Bishkek, Kyrgyzstan, and also in Tashkent in Uzbekistan. And I also played a recital tour, master classes in Bukhara, Samarkand, also in Uzbekistan. And then rushing from there, I went flying across the planet and was playing as a soloist with the orchestra in Zacatecas, which is a gorgeous little town in Mexico. And it's like Spain 500 years ago, frozen in time. It's so beautiful. I played in the historic theater there. And my life was like that. Every 2 weeks, I was flying to some exotic place on the planet. And even before COVID, I played in 10 different countries before March, at the beginning of last year. I was in Barbados and Brazil and Chile, Argentina, and then all of a sudden, poof, everyone got the hammer. And yeah, I was halted to a complete stop. But it came for me as a welcome respite because I was so used to going at such a fast pace that it was just kind of I welcomed it. It was like a forced vacation, and I was like, okay, I just went with it. And the only thing is that one of my cats passed away around that time in February, actually. So that was a little bit sad. And then I felt that my touring was forced stopped at that time in March. And then I had a horrific head-on collision 50 miles an hour on Highway 1, which is a 2-lane highway. And it was I literally, after that, could not even stand up or walk to the bathroom, much less walk to the bathroom, because it broke my femur, the largest bone in the body. And also it degloved my skin. And so all of this apparently was taken back. So right now, I don't feel anything here, and I put on a gob of makeup so that I look normal, but I have a huge scar here and scars all across my face. But in the face of crisis, as the Eastern religions always talk about, there's always opportunity. And this is what I always have embraced, and I look for the pearls of wisdom. It's my whole life has been very challenging, physically challenging and emotionally challenging. And like the oyster, which a piece of dirt gets inside the oyster and it's like a cancer to the oyster. It's painful, it's not nice, but they make a pearl, and to the rest of the world it's a beautiful gem. And so it's that I'm constantly questing for. So I was on the bed in the hospital and unable to move, and I just thought, wow, I've really, really been halted. And so, what is the gift that comes from this? And whenever I'm immobile like that, it's not my first time that I have landed in the hospital unable to walk, but it really illuminates the way for compassion. All of a sudden, you just feel so much. You're in the shoes of everyone else who is in a wheelchair, who has to use crutches, who's been in an accident, so there's tremendous compassion that brightens up, and you just have to embrace that. And also, it's very humbling. Eckhart Tolle said that pain is the key to becoming humble. And I really, really believe that as well. And so whenever I do experience pain, I just know it's just humbling me like crazy. And I think that's a wonderful trait to embody. And it keeps us human, I think. So, and another thing, because I lost some vision in my left eye, I say now that I have new vision. And with my new glasses, I see my husband even more handsome than ever. The day after my accident, he became my chauffeur. I couldn't drive. He became my nurse because I needed all these injections and bandages and all sorts of things. He became my chef because I couldn't cook. He became my everything. And without missing a beat, he was right there for me. And so now I embrace him. I am even more in love with him than I was before. So for all these reasons, yes, it was not fun. I can say it's not fun, but it's illuminated me in so many precious, beautiful ways that it was worth it. And it was life-changing in an amazing way, in so many ways that I'm still learning from.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you already had an incredible first part to your story, because I know as a child you were often in a full body cast and even learned to play the piano laying on your stomach in bed, right? Can you maybe describe those early years and how just from the very beginning of your musician story you were overcoming challenges?
Yeah, so I was born in a small town in Concepcion, Chile, and I was the worst case there. I had no hip sockets. This is a normal hip socket, and I had no sockets. So the doctors there said, we don't know what to do. This is an extreme case. It was both sides. Often it happens just on one side, or often if it's caught early enough, then it is something that can be remedied. But mine was let go too long. And so then my parents took me to Santiago, in the capital of Chile. And there the doctor said, this is an extreme case. She's never going to walk. But my father would not accept that as an answer. So he uprooted the family. And with $2,000, two suitcases, and his two daughters, he left everything, friends, family, work, his country, his culture, everything, and came to Stanford Hospital here in Palo Alto in Bay Area, California. And he admitted me to the hospital. And there I underwent 11 major surgeries. And I was in a body cast from here down to my toes. And there was nothing I could do. I couldn't walk, I couldn't run, I couldn't play, but I did read a lot. So I was always really good in school. And if they flipped me over on the hospital gurney where I lived, I could play the piano. So to this day, I say that music healed my life. Then fast forward, I've always needed these, because my case was so extreme. I then later I needed a surgery that I never got, because I started going to the Aspen Music Festival as a result of a competition I won, and I couldn't interrupt my music studies for a silly surgery, and so I underwent
Of course.
many years of excruciating pain, because I needed a surgery. But when I was 18, I went back to the doctor. I was on my crutches, and I said, okay, I'll take time out. I won't go to Aspen. I'll do the surgery. And then he said, but now you're fully grown. There's nothing we can do. And I just went, you didn't tell me that. So I hopped on a bike and I started biking 20 miles every day. This is where I've always been super proactive with my health journey. I just try to figure out, okay, well, if I can't have the surgery, I got to do something. So I started biking, and I kind of biked my way into health. And I still do. I still bike. I have a stationary bike and a bike. So
Well, and during all this time, with the lack of the hip sockets and not getting the surgeries you needed, you were in a lot of pain, right?
It was horrible pain. From a scale of 1 to 10, I would say this was a million. I mean, I could only withstand about 5 minutes of walking time in one day. So if there was ever a line at the grocery store, I had to just leave everything and go away. And I was living in New York when I was at Juilliard, and it was it was the hardest time of my life, I would say, because I was in such physical pain, which then somehow manifested emotional pain. Pain is really, really difficult. I mean, to live a life with pain, that's got to be one of the biggest challenges, I think. But it gave me so much strength that after my second total hip replacement, finally fast forwarding a decade later, I got my second total hip replacement, and finally I was like, whoa, this is life without pain. It was just like a whole new lease on life. And because I had worked so hard under so much physical pain, it just made life seem so easy. And so that's why, people always say, how do you travel? Because I'm always traveling around. And I started the San Francisco Flute Society. I run Flutes by the Sea Masterclass. I teach at University of California, Santa Cruz, and the Flute View magazine. And the Flute View has a podcast, and it just kind of keeps going. And it's just because I grew up in a body cast where even just walking was impossible. And then I had so much pain that even living was so difficult and just painful, that now I just feel that life is easy and it's fun and it's miraculous. And now finally I'm really living. So I'm wanting to see as much as possible and do as much as I can before my time on the planet is over.
Yeah. One of my favorite quotes, Khalil Gibran, the self-same well from which our laughter rises was oftentimes filled with our tears. And, from the moment you and I met in San Diego, it was like we had eye contact and we just knew, like, hey, you're part of the club. We were like instant friends. And I feel like every time I talk with you, that sentiment of finding the beauty in pain, finding the rise up out of the challenge, like you just embody that. And I always walk away wanting to see more of the great things in this world after I talk to you. It's beyond inspiring. And I know you actually gave a TED talk. Do you want to talk a little bit about the inspiration that you shared in that venue?
Yeah, I've given 3 TED Talks. It was done in the time. Yeah, no, I had just met Greg Patillo, and I started beatboxing, in my, way. And people, it had just hit the scene. And so the young people especially were really drawn to the beatboxing. And so I would play the flute and beatbox, and immediately they were like, oh yes, we need this in our TED Talk. So I did a TED Talk, in Menlo Park, and then I did one in San Francisco, and culminating with the one at Berkeley, because then at UC Berkeley, and I said, look, I also have a story. Do can I actually talk rather than just play? And so I presented my a 5-minute talk that encapsulates actually the basic principles of everything that I just spoke about just now, about my journey from body cast to becoming, to traveling the world. And I think I call my cast period sort of my cocoon years. It was where I was, just embracing music and literature. I was growing my wings that then I would be able to fly around the planet with. So it was a metamorphosis. It was a beautiful hibernation period as well, but so much came afterwards. And I think because I was so restricted as a child, that's why now I want to see the planet, because before I couldn't even walk, and now I just want to see every inch of the planet.
Yeah, I really like this idea of a hibernation period. And your stories, both from when you were a child and then also this extreme car accident right after COVID hit, those are incredible examples of having injuries and then rising up and having that hibernation period. I know so many musicians, maybe they haven't had as extreme an experience with injury or pain, and yet, dealing with carpal tunnel, tendonitis, maybe a problem with a particular finger or a wrist or an elbow, it can be incredibly disheartening when you can't zoom out or see a bird's eye perspective of the bigger musician's story. What advice would you give to those currently suffering from an injury or pain and kind of feeling a little bit lost about how to go forward on their musician's path?
Wow, what a great question, especially for this audience. I, you know, thank goodness I received a very positive training, I would say. My teacher, Albert Tipton, he was already speaking to me as if I were traveling the world. He would say, "You need this gold flute for your travels when you start touring the world." And I would just go, "What?" I was 15 going, "What?" You know? And he was the one who installed in me that to never tense up. Now there's a fine line, because when we're trying to improve our technique, trying to make especially the fourth and fifth fingers going super fast, there's a tendency to grip. I experienced this when I was learning beatboxing, right? That there's a fine line between tension and just breaking through to the next level. So and my teacher always used to emphasize the importance of staying relaxed. So I always have this auto relaxing, I tell my students, actually, we have affirmations that we have to say to ourselves. I can do this. This is easy.
Mm-hmm.
This is fun.
Yes.
But above all, I can do this. And I actually have a student who just started with me 2 years ago. 2 years ago. And you know what she's playing today? She just started the E-Bear Flute Concerto.
Love
Now,
it. Oh my
yeah.
goodness.
And it's because she's like, oh, she heard a recording of Taoud playing it. And she goes, I want to play this piece. I said, okay, we're doing it.
Let's do it.
So, and from day one, now she started learning flute older. She's in college. And so I really had to cram in those affirmations so that she wouldn't get into any bad habits of thinking, oh, I can't do it. Oh, I'm too old. Oh, and all the negative filters that we can get. So back to your question, is just the ease. It just has to be this relaxed at all moments, at all times. And life is, I mean, yes, we tend to get things that are tension creating, but I think it's always important to shift the lens and try to see it with ease and try to see the positive. And in terms of playing, also just repeat over and over, this is easy, this is fun, and I can do it.
Yeah, I know that's something you and I 100% agree on, is what you go looking for is what you will find. So if you go looking for some complex, difficult answer to some complex, difficult problem, you're going to find complexity and difficulty. But like you said, if we're looking for ease and fun, we'll find easy and fun solutions. If you wouldn't mind talking a little bit about what role creativity, positivity, flexibility plays in your teaching just in general, as compared to maybe a harsh disciplinary approach. What's your teaching philosophy?
Oh, it has to be fun. We're here for fun to inspire. I feel that creativity is birthed from, well, both hardship, in that life is not always easy, but I think the process of creativity has to be fun, because if you are demanded to create, it takes all the fun out of it. So when we just dive in, if one day none of us are super inspired in my group classes, I'm thinking, because I like to teach one-on-one, but I also like masterclass sort of situation. And one day I just said, well, let's get your Irish tin whistles out and we'll do an Irish tin whistle day today. Or today is beatboxing day, or, and I just always try to keep it fresh and fun. And I mean, they do have to practice. And that's the one thing that's sometimes it's hard to inspire, because this inspiration has to come from within. And I can't bring my inspiration to someone else. Right? So all I can do is be encouraging. I can steer them to viewing. Nowadays, the thing is, when I grew up in the last century, we didn't have all the resources that there are out there today. We had to knock on every door just to get maybe a little article in the newspaper. We had to knock on doors just to maybe, play it just knock on so many doors and compile press kits. I had to go to Kinko's and get 100 copies of an article of a review and 100 copies of my headshot, and then put it together in a package. Now all of that is on a website, and I mean, everything on Facebook, on all these social platforms. We don't have to knock on anyone's door. We can just post away ourselves. So this is the beauty of today. I mean, and that's something that if you didn't grow up like I did before, we might not recognize how empowering this actually is. And so using social media as a source, as a place for creation, to post maybe a video, a fun video that you did, or a picture, have a beautiful scene that you saw, or just now with TikTok, there's just the possibilities are literally endless. And so I just see it as a wonderful way of self-expression. And I encourage my students to do that as well. So
Yeah, well, you've actually encouraged me so much because before we started talking about social media, I definitely had a love-hate relationship with it. Part of it really bothered me. I think I was kind of still in this old-fashioned mindset of like, oh, it's weird to be like, look at me, look at me. But you helped me see it in a totally different light, and kind of showed me it's just like anything else. It's the intention behind it. It's the joy and the fun behind it. And sharing is just a generous thing to do. It's like, hey, look at this little peek into my magical musical life. And so I view it through a completely different lens because of our conversations. Do you have any advice for flutists, music students that maybe they're struggling because they scroll through their feeds and they don't feel good enough or ready enough to be putting things out there? What would you say to them?
yeah, that's a great question. And I've wondered that myself. If my 20-year-old self, would she be putting things online right now? I actually don't know. I think it's a personal decision. I can say that during, when I was overcoming this last surgery, and I thank goodness that I could still play. That's what kept me going. And so I joined the Etude of the Week clan, and I was uploading an etude every week. And what I learned from that was we don't use videotaping enough in our practice. At least I don't, or didn't, because again, I didn't grow up with having this video capability or audio recording capability either. And I forget that that's actually a super helpful tool. And I think that just for that reason alone, even just posting 10 minutes, I love Hilary Hahn. Is that her name? Hilary Hahn, the violinist. She posts her practice videos, and I think that's amazing that she does that. There's another another violinist that I follow. She posts practice videos as well. So it can be of just our practice. I think there's value to that. I know that when I see my video, I think, oh wow, I didn't realize I was doing that. I got to change that. And it's the best, it gives opportunity for us to be our own teacher. So I would say that posting, sure, and especially photos, although I would say that videos do get more engagement, but it's also an opportunity to be fun. I mean, you don't have to even be playing. You could just put up funny videos. If you have the Flute brothers from the Fort Worth Symphony,
Oh, yes,
Jake and Gabe.
yeah,
Yeah.
uh-huh.
So their videos are always super fun because they obviously, I don't know them, but through their videos, I can tell what they have a fun sense of humor, a great sense of humor. And so they capitalize on that and create funny little videos. And I think that doing that and challenging yourself to do that sort of thing, I think is a wonderful opportunity.
Yeah, it is an incredible opportunity, and I'm kind of thinking about the flip side of it that does have to be grappled with internally, which is when you share, it's a beautiful thing, but you're also opening yourself up for criticism. And it's such a normal thing to be very afraid of criticism, or maybe to take criticism way too personally. What advice would you give those that are sharing their music, whether it's online or even on stage? What do you do about either critics or internal critics or even imaginary critics? What's your advice here?
Well, I think haters will be haters, and we cannot please everyone. That's just the bottom line. No one person is going to be the perfect person for everyone, right? So that being said, so push that aside and just be the best that you can be. I think I've seen a lot of, even famous people. I think Britney Spears, she posted on how she was devastated because of her hater. I don't know what scenario. I don't follow her that closely, but she was expressing lament over that sort of thing. So everyone gets it, from someone as famous as she is to a former roommate of mine who became Miss America, and then she was the subject of a lot of hate as well, apparently, and it really hurt her. I mean, these things are painful, but I think it's bad. I love it when I can just delete. Someone says something I don't like, I'm like, forget you. There are 8 billion other people on the planet. I don't need you. And I actually enjoy that process. So I also heard Josephine Olek. She's the principal flutist of the Rotterdam. She expressed in an interview with Terri Sánchez, who plays in Basel. She said that, yeah, oh yeah, I get haters too sometimes, but you can't take it too close to heart. You have to be able to have a little bit of a thick skin and just laugh it off, or just, it's great when you can block somebody. I think it's great.
You're also a really good example of someone who's active on social media, sharing things online, but also knows the value of quiet and solitude and personal time. Do you have any words to share about striking that balance and finding your way in a modern world, but still connecting with yourself?
Wow. Yeah, that's awesome. So historically, I've just gone, I love the ocean. The ocean for me is a wonderful metaphor for my life. And I've been riding this huge wave of a million concerts and travels and experiences for about 25 years now. I've just been on this roll. And I sought my solitude while riding on a plane. I would just plug in with my headset and just meditate internally and just sort of zone in, or backstage or that kind of thing. So it was kind of on the road. I would try to find a peaceful walk on the beach if I was in a beach town or something like that. Now my accident and the pandemic have offered me an extended internal time, and I have embraced it. And I didn't realize how much needed it and craved it until it presented itself to me. So I always wanted to have a place to live in Big Sur, which is this beautiful area here in California. And it's not until now that I finally have a place to go there. And I just can't get enough of it. So I'm almost wondering why I've been running around the planet so much when I'm so loving just being earth grounded in one spot. And I love being an absolute, I crave, well, I always did look for the silent places of the planet. And I used to go to my sanctuary in Las Torres del Paine in Chile, the southern Chilean Patagonia, or even in Kyrgyzstan in the mountains there, which is like Switzerland, the Switzerland of Central Asia, or wherever it was, where, in Sapa in Vietnam, in the northern part of Vietnam, or it's Ha Long Bay in Vietnam. I mean, these are gorgeous, beautiful, and tend to be fairly peaceful and quiet. I was always searching for quiet. So I think if you're searching for it, it will happen. You also have to put on your glasses, make sure you can see it when it does present yourself too, because often we're so busy and chaotic. Oh, I wish I had some quiet. And then you just don't see the moment. At lunchtime, actually, there is a peaceful moment there that can be embraced. So yes, it is about finding the balance. As I said, I rode the wave of this insane touring schedule that I loved every second of, and now I'm embracing the wave of just going within. And so I'm taking this opportunity for other creative outlets that have kind of stayed a little bit dormant, but I have a lot of little projects that I'm working on right now, and that eventually I'll be able to unveil and release.
It's really cool, the imagery of the time periods coming in waves. I interviewed Siobhan Dos Morton last week, and she was talking about, everybody wanting to get there. And then she said, well, where is there? Right? And I hear you embracing the different phases. There's a time for busy, there's a time for solitude. And I like the calm relaxation I hear in you when you're talking about projects that are kind of being born, but you're not like forcing them to happen. What will you say if we talk about taking time, letting go of instant gratification, and investing in bigger ideas, projects, and time periods for musicians?
What came to mind at first when you were asking the question is being on a boat and at sea. So you can paddle and kind of steer where you might want to go. But then a big storm can come and wash you over, and who knows where you're going to end up. So it's that I see life as these kind of stormy times, and times that you can actually paddle and get to where the island that you want to go to. So it's just being aware of where in that time period you are in. I think that it's important to go within and follow our own compass, because when we take a moment, even it can just be 5 minutes of closing your eyes, taking a deep breath, getting centered. And yes, there's the rush of, oh, I got to pay the bills. Oh, I got to call so-and-so. I got to call this person back. I got to schedule this. And yes, but let that fall away, and then just get to center and find in that time, which I love to incorporate this every day as a daily practice. And I have my daily to-do list. I have a weekly to-do list, a monthly goals, and 6-month goals, a year goal, 2-year goals, 5-year goals, 10-year goals, 20-year goals. So it's important to jot all this down. And I learned early on to write. I've always kept a journal, and I used to always write my dreams, even having the courage to not stop yourself from achieving something that you think, oh, this is just completely not possible. No, just allowing yourself to dream, like in a perfect scenario. What do you want for your life? And write that down. And then let it go. But just the process of writing it down somehow does manifest it. And 20 years later, when you look at that, you're going to go, oh my God, it actually happened. So
you're reminding me how you call your flute your magic wand. And I love that on so many levels. Not only is it your magic wand that takes you around the world, but also just this idea that flute runs on frequencies and sound and vibration, and we're frequency and sound and vibration. Can you describe the way you think of your flute as a magic wand?
well, my magic wand has taken me around the planet. I mean, I was born in Concepcion, Chile. And if I had stayed in Concepcion, Chile, if I had not been born with my physical difficulties, I probably would be divorced with 5 kids and going, oh, what is, well, there's nothing wrong with that kind of life, but it was a, much smaller kind of life. And my flute, as soon as I found it, it has been my Excalibur. It has been my magic wand. Oh, I have to say, Merlin in the Tale of King Arthur, his mistress was the Lady of the Lake, and she was also the bearer of Excalibur, and her name was Vivian.
Oh, wow. How cool.
So I did a music video about this. It's my own music because I studied composition as well, but this is sort of an electronic. And it's called The Lady of the Lake. And it's an autobiographical music video of my story. So my magic wand has taken me to Antarctica, not once, not twice, but 5 different times. It's taken me to the Great Wall of China, the pyramids of Mexico, the pyramids in Egypt, up the Suez Canal, down the Amazon River. I mean, Greenland to Iceland to, just all 131 countries. And some of the most spectacular performances have been, I just get into, I'm in the pyramids of Mexico, for example, and I get into a trance and I just start improvising. And then I remember opening my eyes and there were like 100 iguanas all just looking at me like, and I just thought, oh, the spirit of the iguana. Oh, it's so, the flute has been my ticket, the one thing that has taken me all over and brought me so many wonderful people, and just the experiences are endless. And they very much reflected the list that I wrote down when I was at Juilliard, my dream list of things that I wanted to manifest in my life.
I'm just taking in the iguana still. What an experience. And I'm also thinking, something I try to explain to my students, especially when they're at the height of their feeling busy and overwhelmed and stressed and just kind of like stuck in their heads, is, I know so many flute players that they've either come from very uptight type A personalities, and then we're sort of forced to find a better way of doing things, and going within and being more flexible and in tune with a bigger picture, or they're like you, where you've sort of always been like that, where beauty and connection and just understanding that it's about so much more than you, but also all the answers are within you. And I'm always looking for ways to communicate to a student who can't imagine getting up and meditating, who can't imagine writing down their dream scenario, who maybe would watch this and think, okay, wow, she's amazing, and all those things sound great, but I'm just busy, stressed out little me. Can you talk to those students? Right
now, if you're one of those students, get your pen and pencil right now. I don't have any paper right here. I have an iPad. No, I have my phone. A phone will do. Put it in notes. Yes, there you go. Okay, but also I'm going to pull up notes because you can always put it up in here. And I want you to write down just crazy dreaming. 5 things that you want to manifest in your life that you don't have right now, but that you want in your life. And I'll do this too.
So while we're writing, you're writing.
Okay.
Got mine.
I got mine.
Here, tell us one of yours.
Okay.
Or are we supposed to keep them secret?
No, well, it's either way. But I think for that person who says, oh, I can't do that, or I don't have time to do that, we just allowed, I don't even know if it was 2 minutes to do this quickly. That's all it takes. I mean, okay. So on top of I have a Grammy nominated CD, but my first request for the powers that be would be to win an actual Grammy. So that's what I have first. But that's what I said. I dream big. I mean, my dreams are, but it's not, if you shoot for the stars, you'll end up at the moon or something like that. That's what the saying goes. So
shoot for the moon, end up amongst the stars, but either way is good.
Yeah. Okay, whatever. I didn't quite know it, but it's that kind of thing. You've got to think big. Yeah. So tell us one of yours.
Okay, so I'm a baby composer, just getting the hang of it, but I've always had this fantasy in my mind of this epic work where there's like a choir on one side of the stage, there's an orchestra on the other side of the stage, and then like you don't know that it's going to happen, but there are all these musicians and singers that turns out they're all in the balcony, and it's just like this huge collaborative all-encompassing sound that anybody in the audience would just be drenched in. And so I've always had that in my mind. That's one of my big ones.
Oh, that sounds beautiful. I can't wait for that one to manifest. Yeah. I want to be in the audience for that one.
Right? Or one of the star featured musicians. Or both at different times. Yeah.
Another one of mine is I'm still looking for my dream house. So that is far away, and I have such a tall order because I'm super. For the longest time, I lived oceanfront, but I want to own, and to own oceanfront is very pricey. So I've had to let go of some of my requirements, but I do want it to be away from everybody and in the middle of nowhere. I preferably a dirt road so no one comes. Tell us another one of yours.
Oh, well, living by the ocean was definitely on my list too. That's always been a thing. But I also want to have a beautiful home that has this incredible room that's simultaneously a black box theater, but also like a movie theater. So like double function. So yeah, I'm really into the dream home idea as well.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, Viviana, gosh, you and I could talk for hours, but I think before we finish up the interview, I'm very curious about people's morning routines. Will you share with us the things that you do in the morning to get your day off on the right foot?
Oh, beautiful. So I start with a short meditation, as I said, just to get myself focused and centered. And it can be, I can just come out of sleep. If I have had a dream, I write my dreams down too, because I'm a dream analyst, or I love sharing dreams. And I meditate and I get centered as to what my goal for the day is, or what and it's usually the inside that I follow everything. I can even have a planned day, but if I'm driving and all of a sudden I think, oh, I want to go to the beach or something, I'll make the turn and I'll go to the beach. So it's that kind of having an intention, but also going with the flow of my heart. And I always have to do my exercises because I have a lot of issues, as you can imagine. And I have a basic breakfast, and then I start practicing. And I practice, I do a lot of it with a tuner for difference tone tuning, which I feel centers my sound. And it's like working within the laws of nature. And so it really makes the sound super whole and full of the harmonics as well, if you're playing in tune with a tuner. So
Yeah, could you speak a little bit more about that just for anybody curious? Like how would you go about practicing in this way?
oh, well, I when I presented in a masterclass, I have the sheet music which I need to print and make available to everyone, and that's another one of my projects. But I hold a tuner. Now, the easiest way is by using the tuning CD, which, let me see if I can pull that up. It's just literally called the tuning.
Yeah, I used to have that on CD. Is it available online now, or is it just CD?
It is available online, but I suggest you get it because it's not very
Mm-hmm.
loud. It's a basic tonic and dominant,
Mm-hmm.
and you can download it, but on YouTube you have to jump through a lot of commercials and
Mm-hmm.
things. You can't get it on Spotify. I don't have a subscription. So anyway, I own this. This is like the uh, difference tone tuning 101 app that I recommend, because it's very clear. You just play the tonic, and then the third scale step, which you always have to lower, and the fifth scale step, which you always have to raise. And sometimes going from the third to the fifth, you don't realize how huge that interval actually is, how low you need to go and how high you need to go. So
Mm-hmm.
it's just good to have that. And then once the student is done, or has grasped that fairly well, then we graduate to just having a one pitch. And I use an app called Clear Tune, but it has to be one that speaks. Like the needle is no, I think is doesn't help. This actually develops your ear. And so here I will do more arpeggios, and I'll do a scale. I'll tune a scale with putting the tuner on the fifth scale step. So if we're on C, then it will be an F major, and we'll play the F and then the G, and then the A has to be really lowered. But it's you raise the second, lower the third, raise the fourth, raise the fifth, lower the sixth because it's an inversion of the third, and
Mm-hmm.
then lower the seventh, and then the tonic again. So it's
Yeah.
that kind of routine.
That's awesome. Well, your discipline is inspiring, your creativity is inspiring, and my goodness, the way that you just constantly rise up no matter what challenges life throws you. I know the ripple effects from that are incredible as people learn more about your story. As we close for today, do you have any final words of wisdom for this interview for flutists, musicians watching?
Above all, the most important thing, and you've heard this before, no doubt, but belief in yourself is key. You have to believe in yourself. You have to go for it. You have to, even if it's scary, go for it. Getting on stage, none of us, I met Placido Domingo once, who famous opera star, always on the stage. And I asked him, do you get nervous still? And he said, of course, everyone gets nervous. Now, then taking that and turning that fear into a power, using your flute as an Excalibur, that is the goal. Okay. And that is the challenge. And I challenge you to go on stage and just take over the stage, with that power. You have to, but in order to do that, you do have to practice performing a lot. So another thing I like to say is it's very important to choose your friends and associates wisely. I think that if you play with the best musicians, you end up being one of the best musicians. That's very important. And just in general, toxic people, you might want to let go of, and just try to surround yourself with positive energy, because we do tend to absorb other people. We're influenced by other people. I also think that networking is very important, And because of that, you need to be nice to everyone. You never know if a fellow student might become the booker for the next gig or something, or a manager, or you never know where our lives, our paths will cross again. And it's best to have be nice and kind and respectful to everyone. Send thank you cards and that kind of thing. I mean, it's I could go on, but I think those are.
Yes. Well, I can't wait to watch this interview back. So many gems. Thank you so much for sharing, Viviana.
Thank you, Dr. Terri, for inviting me. It's really a pleasure, and just thank you for having this series. I think it's wonderful, and good luck to everyone out there. I wish you and everyone else all the best.
Thanks, Viviana. Bye.